Learning Chinese is becoming more and more popular, catching up with languages such as French, Spanish and English. I've been learning Chinese for 3 years now, and I want to talk about some things that I did well and some things I wish I knew before I started learning Chinese. First, you need to ask yourself, why are you learning Chinese? Emotional reasons tend to work better. For example, if you're interested in the culture, if you have friends or family who speak the language, or if you want to go and move abroad to a country that speaks Chinese. These are all great reasons to learn. Learning Chinese for a business purpose usually isn't a good idea. There's already thousands of Chinese speakers who can speak great English. They also have some other skill like engineering or business management. So you're going to find it really hard to compete with those kind of people. Also, without the emotional drive to keep you learning, you're going to find yourself very quickly giving up. So unless you're already in the business, I wouldn't recommend that being a reason for learning Chinese. Be aware that learning Chinese is a long-term process and you should be ready to commit a lot of time. Becoming fluent takes like years and years. After this, if you still decided that you want to learn Chinese, I would recommend watching Chinese TV shows. It's a great way to see if you enjoy the culture and the content without actually having to go over to the country. Be sure to choose a modern day drama show because it's closer to how people behave and what the customs are like now. If you are a native English speaker and English is your only language, I actually recommend that you learn another language first. Almost every Chinese teacher I've had have said that native English speakers who only speak one language tend to be the worst students because they always ask why. Why is the grammar like this? Why is the word order like this? When sometimes there is no why. And this is actually something I struggle with a lot myself, understanding why I can do this in English but I can't do it in Chinese and vice versa. Chinese is also known to be one of the hardest languages for native English speakers to learn because it's just so vastly different to English. Differences include tones, new words and sounds, characters, lack of tense, lack of plurals, cultural differences in language, different grammar, different sentence structures and lack of cognates. So if you're going just from English straight into Chinese, you've got so much more to deal with. However, if you looked at learning something like Swedish, the differences are a lot less. New words and sounds, differences in grammar, differences in sentence structure, accented letters, some cultural differences in languages, but Swedish has loads and loads of cognates. So if you use Swedish as a stepping stone from English to Chinese, you're going to have a much better time because you're dealing with a lot less stuff. You're already used to the fact that different languages have new sounds, different grammars, stuff like that. You wouldn't even have to get good at Swedish, just a basic level so that you can comprehend that languages are different, so that when you come to the challenge of learning Chinese, you're already one step ahead. The first thing I would do when starting to learn Chinese is learn the tones. Ignore anyone who says tones aren't important. Creating a bad habit will be 10 times harder to fix later on, so it's best to get a good habit right from the start. There are hundreds of videos on YouTube about the basic of tones and what the differences are, so I recommend you go watch them. Do lots of listening, repeating, guessing what the tone is and double checking yourself. I recommend an app called Hello Chinese for listening and repeating. At this point in time as well, it's also wise to check with a native speaker to make sure the tones that you're producing, what you hear, are actually what they're meant to be. Understanding and being able to produce different tones before you dig into the meat of the language is so important. I would also learn how to write characters and learn what stroke order is. When you're in the classes, you already have so much more to deal with the listening and the speaking and the pronunciation. If you get the writing done first, it'll be so much easier for you when you actually start attending classes. Scritter is a great app that I recommend. Not only can you choose custom decks or find a deck that matches your textbook and practice writing stroke order and characters, you can also practice your listening and your tones as well. Another thing is, when I first moved to Taiwan, I came here as an English teacher and I was under the pretense that I would be able to learn Chinese in my free time. I realised Chinese was a lot harder than I thought, so after my 1-year contract was up, I went and studied Chinese full time. However, that meant I was living in a Chinese speaking country for 1 whole year without being able to take advantage of the environment that I was in. So I recommend, if you're planning to move to another country to study the language, that you do the studying first and the work later. The last point I have is to know your strengths and your weaknesses. If you hated school, then you probably won't enjoy classroom-based learning. If you have ADHD or dyslexia, then you need to know it's going to take longer for you to learn compared to other people. For me, my hearing loss was a barrier that I thought I could overcome with sheer willpower, but it quickly caught up with me. My first 2 semesters of studying Chinese were intense 15 hours a week courses. My first semester was absolutely fine because I'd done a load of prerequisites. I practiced the writing and the tones before I started class. But by the second semester, it definitely caught up with me and I was falling behind. The teacher only spoke Chinese and she was a lot more strict, and on top of that, the tests were harder as well. On top of that, I was really bad at memorizing characters. But at the time, I was kind of too proud to acknowledge that my disability could hold me back. And in retrospect, I should have taken a regular class and not pushed myself as hard. Chinese and language learning is a marathon, it's definitely not a sprint. I hope you guys learned something useful to reflect on and think about. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!